So we're finished seeing the few tests, and I'm hoping that I can give you all the JPEG file and probably the raw files. I'll try to create a link so that all of you can download all the raw files and take a look into the details. But at the same time, I'd like to spend some time to compare the softwares by these three manufacturers. But before that, I would like to give you some background information. First of all, I would like to talk about Pentax. They developed their own software, which is a digital camera utility 5. But because the camera can actually shoot two different files, one which is PEF, and the other one is they can actually take a DNG file, which is a digital negative, which is developed by Adobe. So that is a very convenient file if you are using Lightroom or Photoshop. And then it is Hasselblad's focus. So I asked the technician, what do you recommend us to do while developing the raw files? So the first thing is they talk about Focus, of course, which is free. You can download it from their software. If you send the raw file to your friends, they can easily go online and download the file from Hasselblad and open up the files. And if you have those FFF file, which you convert the raw file from them, you can actually open up the FFF file in Lightroom and Photoshop. I tried that out. The result is pretty good. It looked just like what you do with the raw file. Then it comes to Capture One. Phase One developed the Capture One, which I use Capture One on daily basis, including for my 145 systems. I would say that the quality of it is among the three of them is the best, and it could open up most of the raw files out there. But I guess there are some commercial considerations. That's why it couldn't open up the Pentax file and also the Hasselblad file. Though it could open up a DNG file, but we tried that out. Using Capture One to develop a DNG file looks a bit strange. It would take a lot of time for you to come up with a reasonable result. So what remains now is that for us as a commercial photographer, no matter if you are or are not a commercial photographer, what we want is actually to have a good result after developing the raw file. So first of all, I would like to take some time to talk about the Digital Utility 5 developed by Pentax. So this is their layout. First of all, I would like to show you. So this is the photo which I would like to do some adjustment to it. So what I need to do is to go into the laboratory mode, and let's see. So first of all, it takes quite some time to go into that mode. Okay, finally it's done. So after it's loaded up into the laboratory mode, so what we want to do is to adjust it. So first of all, custom image. I would like to, we can actually use some of those camera profiles, just like a lot of the 135 DSLRs out there. You can click any one of these camera profiles and then you have a very different results according to what you actually want. If you know what you actually want, you can just click onto the camera profile that you want and you will have that. So let's try clicking onto Radiant. It would take quite some time. You can see that you actually do need to wait for quite a while before you can see the result. And of course, what you are seeing, the Radiant, is not making any sense. So we go back to natural, and it's taking us another 6 seconds or so before we can see the result. And you can see that the color is a bit strange to my eyes and on my monitor. So anyway, let's stick with the natural color profile. So, and now I would like to work on the white balance. Let's go back to the camera setting, which while we were shooting the file, we were shooting it like this. The white balance is a bit off. So let's try to change it into some other color temperature. And for this time, because we know what the color temperature is according to what we have from the other two software. So what I'm trying to do now is to set the color temperature in Digital Camera Utility 5. And it seems to me that actually you can't type in the color temperature. You can only select from this list, which is a bit strange. And the closest color temperature that I can select from all these is 3333, and then which is not working a lot. So I go into the gray point setting. So you click into the pointer and then you try to pick a point which should be natural, should be gray. And you have 3 modes down there, 1 point, 3 points, 5 points, and you need to wait for quite some time before it would show you the result. And because of all these, this software is kind of time wasting. It is wasting a lot of our time. If you are a commercial photographer and you are working, this software is going to spend you quite some time, which is not very clever. So I wouldn't recommend this. So what I would try to do now is to use the DNG file and go into camera raw, which is within Photoshop. So the first thing that I discover is that the exposure is quite off, which is underexposed for one stop or even more. The second problem is the color. I don't know if that is good or not, but let's try to take a look at the other two softwares. This is from Capture One in Phase 1, and then this is Focus by Hasselblad, and then and then Digital Camera Utility by Pentax, and then we go back to Photoshop. It is pretty obvious that the color is off, which is a little bit pale, the saturation is a bit low, and the contrast is lower. So the first thing that you need to do is to go into the color profile, and then you need to change the color profile. Instead of using Adobe Standard, you need to use Embedded, which is, I guess, is what Pentax embedded some information into the raw file, so that you can actually achieve a similar result in Lightroom and Photoshop. You really need to do that before you can get a good result. But while I'm doing the test, I'll have to change the white balance of quite a few photos. What I discovered was that Pentax software is pretty difficult to use, and I'm afraid that the difference would be too much for us for the sake of this test. So that's why I would rather go back to the Pentax software. And this process is pretty tedious, and for me, I would really recommend you to forget about Digital Camera Utility 5. Let's wait till 6. So then, let's take a look at Focus and Capture One. Talking about the image quality from these two software, it looks pretty similar, but if you look into the detail, you will see differences. Now, the first major differences that I'm seeing is that Hasselblad's file is providing the best noise control, particularly with the color noise, which they have none, actually. They don't have a lot of color noise. Now, I know that it's difficult for you to see that here, but when you have the files downloaded and then you can open it up in your own computer on your own monitor, you'll see the difference. But for Capture One, for the Phase 1 files, the sharpness is the best. I don't know if that has something to do with the lens or what, but to me, that the files provided by Capture One is the best. Now that we have finished testing these 3 cameras and have the files open it up on the computer, I know that a lot of you are asking the same question at this point. Which camera to buy? There is no easy answer to this question. I would like to spend some time to talk about them. First of all, I would like to talk about a Pentax 645Z. It's a nice camera. And I guess Pentax, from the ground up, is trying to develop a camera which is very similar to the 135 system that a lot of us are using nowadays. The feel of it, the layout of the buttons of it, and also the autofocus system on it is very similar to a 135 system, which makes it very easy to use on the field. But for the Hasselblad and the Phase 1, from ground up, I guess they were not meant to be used on field. They were meant to be used in studio. That's why Pentax won perfectly on this aspect. Secondly,
the Pentax is really cheap. Now, I know it's not cheap. We're talking about 70,000 Hong Kong dollar or 9,000 US. That's quite a lot. You can buy a 1DX or a D4S easily with that money. But if you try to put it side by side with the Hasselblad and the Phase 1, you know that it's cheap, because for the Hasselblad and the Phase 1, we're talking about 250,000 Hong Kong dollar or 23 to 25,000 US for that system, which is a lot. And the Pentax, comparing to the Hasselblad and the Phase 1, is really cheap in that. So if you are trying to move into the medium format system, I guess Pentax is a really good choice. But does it mean that the Hasselblad and the Phase 1 doesn't work? My answer to that is no. First of all, for Hasselblad and Phase 1, they have a very strong lineup of lens. We all know that. And both of them got leaf shutter for their lens. So if you are a professional photographer and you are going to shoot a lot of action instead of a lot of landscape, I guess Hasselblad and Phase 1 are still winning these aspects a lot. But we know that Pentax is developing their new lens. At this point, they have already announced that they are going to release a new lens, which is 28mm to 45mm 4.5. In no time, I guess they're going to release even more lens. Maybe by that time, Pentax is going to even up on these aspects. So we will see. Secondly, for Hasselblad and Phase 1, the digital back is actually removable. That means that we could attach these digital backs onto different systems, like some other like Alpha technical cameras or some other 4x5 technical cameras. For professional photographers, sometimes we'll use these cameras in some particular situations, which is quite convenient. And at this point, Pentax couldn't do this. So I would still say that there are still some aspects the Hasselblad and the Phase 1 are winning. And there are some other functions that these two systems are providing, while the Pentax is not. For the IQ250, it is providing a Wi-Fi system, so that if you have that turned on, if you have an iPhone or an iPad nearby with the Capture Pilot installed, you can see the photo which is in the camera right away wirelessly, which the other two systems are not providing. And for the Hasselblad, the True Focus system is a pretty major plus, because for medium format cameras, the depth of field is pretty narrow. With the True Focus, is really helpful in a lot of situations. I would also like to talk about the live view. For the CMOS sensor on the Pentax, you have live view, no problem. Pretty helpful on the field. Very similar to a 135 system. For the Phase 1 IQ250, not only you do have a live view, you also have a touch screen back there, so that you can turn the live view on and double tap on any point, and then you can see it in 100% and you know that you are in focus or not. That is a huge plus for the Phase 1. But for the Hasselblad, at this point, they don't have a live view on with their camera, with their digital back at this point. I've talked to their technician. They are saying that they are going to release a new firmware in the near future. Then we'll have the live view on the camera instead of like what they are having now. You will have to plug it into a computer so that you can see the live view on the computer. So we'll wait for the firmware update. So, which camera to buy? It's a really difficult question to answer. It's really up to you. We'll need to know what you really need before you make up your mind on which camera to buy.